Welcome back to Conversing Over Drinks with your host, Cedric Turner. Today, we have a special guest, a former colleague of mine at NSU and a great basketball of mine, Coach Heidi Messer. Today, we're going to be talking about the recent and well-deserved rise of women's basketball. And we're just going to have a great conversation about that. Heidi, if you want to introduce yourself more, let everybody know where you coach at, your background and stuff, that'd be great.
Yeah, my name's Heidi Messer. I'm originally from Ohio. I'm currently the head coach at Oklahoma Wesleyan University. It's an NAIA university in Oklahoma, obviously just outside of Tulsa and Bartlesville. Previously at Northeastern State, a Division II university out here in Oklahoma. And then before that, University of Montevallo in Alabama, also Division II, and got my start at Division III, Manchester University in Indiana, after a 2-year stint as a GA at Georgetown College in Kentucky. So, it feels like a lot to go through, but I think it's, very much a part of my journey. Coaching looks different for everybody. And so I like to give a nod to all the places that have helped shape me into the coach that I am now.
Oh, yeah, that is a definite. My experience in the coaching was very different. I didn't get to bounce around as much as you did, and I wish I would have, because that's a lot of, like, you get to just pick the minds of so many coaches when you get to do that. But I got extremely lucky. I was kind of born into it. My aunt's a great coach, and my cousins were all great players. My aunt is still a phenomenal coach in the state of Oklahoma and just went into the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. So cool. That was great. So I ask all the people when we do a basketball episode, because it is my love. It's my first love. I've always loved it. When did you fall in love with basketball?
When did I fall in love? I think my dad and my brother were working on something in the garage when I was like 4. And to keep me entertained, my brother threw me a ball and told me how to put it in a hoop. And for whatever reason, I got into it then. And then I discovered Michael Jordan, started watching him, and it just took off from there. Honestly, I've loved this game since I was 4 and loved watching it since I was, able to pay attention. And I can vividly remember sitting down, legs crossed, watching the 91 Suns and Bulls NBA Finals at 6. Like, the 6-year-old is locked in on an NBA Finals game. But there was something about it that drew me in, and I've loved it ever since. So,
man, that's great. I love that it was just a distraction. Like, it was, hey, get out of here.
Right.
it became a love and a passion. That's great. I fell in love with it just from my grandfather. My grandfather was a basketball fan, and he had a basketball goal up for us at his house whenever we would come visit. But around 92, I'm like 2 years old, going into year 3, and Dream Team's out. And my granddaddy is glued to the TV watching that Dream Team. And I just saw his love and passion for it, and I loved it ever since. Like, it was just what I wanted to do. It's crazy because I always wore number 15, and people thought I wore 15 because of Carmelo Anthony, because he was my era. Like, and he was at Syracuse when I was in high school and all these other things. And they were like, man, it was like, you wear 15 because of Melo? And I'm like, nah, I wear 15 because of Magic Johnson. I was like, I wear 15. Dream Team Magic Johnson wore 15. And I was like, my granddaddy loved Magic Johnson. And so I wear 15 out of homage to my granddaddy. I was like, that's just what cool. I do. So I love it, man. It's always been fun.
Always.
So when did you decide that coaching was the avenue? Because it's always been that type of saying, like, those who can do, those who can't coach. And I always felt like that was so disrespectful. I was just like, there's a lot of great players who just choose to coach. Like, it's just, they fall in love with it. Like, it's not that they can't do it, they just enjoy coaching.
Yeah, and I think on the flip, you get a lot of great players who try to stay in the game, and it's like, you know what, not your calling. Don't so you get it both ways. I think for me, ironically, I think even when going back to when I was a little kid, I knew I wanted to impact and influence and lead it within my soul. You know what I mean? Like, say it has to be a calling because it's been in my spirit that long. And I think the more I loved this game and the more I pursued it as I grew and got older, since high school, I knew I wanted to coach. And it was in college when I was like, oh, I want to coach at the collegiate level. That's automatic
Yeah.
for me. And part of it, I think, was being a female athlete pretty much my entire life, knowing what that process is mentally, emotionally, athletically, and wanting to find ways to lead and impact other players like myself. You know, it's such a process. And so I think for me, the essence of it has been within me since I was little. And then as I got older and developed in the game and really realized, you know, I played basketball and soccer, both actually in college. And everybody, obviously, if you know me, you've seen me,
Yeah.
I probably favor the build of a soccer player a little bit more than a
Yeah.
basketball player. And so everybody's like, well, why'd you go basketball? Like, you're short. Doesn't seem to make sense. You know, I love soccer, but I'm passionate about basketball. I love this game and always have loved just soaking in anything I can about it.
Yeah. I understand that completely because I've had the same thing happen to me. I was like, you know me, and you see my build, I look more like a football player, and like I'm short, stocky, built like a football player, big legs, big chest. Like it's and a lot of my buddies, whenever we would go play pickup ball, you would always hear, "Oh, he a football player trying to play basketball." And I'm like, nah, like,
Yeah.
like, and I was passionate about it,
Yeah.
and the older I got, I became very honest with myself. And like when my kids asked me when I first started coaching, they were like, "Hey, coach, like, what were you better at?" I was honest with them. I was like, "Hey, I was way better football player." I was, it was no joke there. I was a way better football player. I was just passionate about basketball, man. I loved it. And I was like, that's the reason I turned down a lot of football scholarships to go play basketball because I was just passionate about it. I wanted to coach it. That's a lie. I didn't want to coach it. I did not want to coach it.
No.
I saw what it like the hours that my aunt had to put in. I saw the hours other coaches had to put in that I had a lot of respect for. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. And then
I
I
was
also
clueless.
I saw the dealings with parents and the different like having to go to your superintendent and ask them. Like I was just like, bro, I don't want to deal with none of that. I just want to coach. Like if I was going to coach, I just want to coach.
Well, and I
And
think that's one thing. Like I knew I wanted to coach. I knew the high school level had a lot of that stuff in it. Not ideal,
yeah,
um, but I didn't know anybody at the collegiate level. And
yeah,
you know, even my college coach, it was his alma mater that he was at. And
yeah.
so for me, it was like Pat Summit junkie, a John Wooden junkie, Gino. Like I was watching all those coaches at that time really grow the game in that era.
Sorry about that. We had a little misconnection. So, Coach, you said you didn't really have a lot of the coaching experience and opportunities, and you were talking about your college coach being at his alma mater.
Yeah, so I think for, you know, I just didn't know a lot of college coaches. I knew my high school coaches, I knew the college coaches that had recruited me or that I played for, obviously. But in terms of, hey, where are coaching mentors I can learn about what this industry really looks like? I just didn't have it. You know, I had come from a small area in Ohio that my network just wasn't there yet at that time. And
Yeah,
no love lost. My college coach wanted me to keep me there. And
yeah,
so, you know, it's like I just didn't have a good network. I had no idea. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, like, oh, well, how far would you move? How far would you go for coaching? I'm telling you right now, Oklahoma would not have been on the list. So, you know, you just
yeah.
never know. But I've just kind of always kind of let it lead my path, let God lead my path through that passion. And, you know, here we are. But it's been a unique experience and journey thus far.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's always unique where sports can take you, and it's something where it's been a very big passion of mine, so I enjoy it a lot. But I understand that not having those coaching opportunities because uh, I was extremely blessed and lucky at the same time. Because like I had the family prestige, but it was part of the family that I didn't really get to see a lot and I didn't really talk to a lot. It was on my dad's side. I knew of them, I watched them, and if I had a question, they would answer.
Sure.
But it wasn't like I got to grow up and experience them. Like
Yeah.
my aunt, I'm pretty sure being around Oklahoma basketball, you've probably had conversations with my aunt or players from her school. My aunt is Darlene Caleb.
Okay.
Oprah. That's my aunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
I did not realize that after all this time.
Yeah, that's my aunt. That's my aunt right there. That's
she's done a thing or two around the state.
Yeah, just a little bit. But she's my dad's sister. And like, so I grew up with that. Like my older cousin Trish Osborne, she played at Seminole State and then Oklahoma State. She was on that last Oklahoma State's women's team to win a Big 12 championship. Then my cousin, my aunt's daughter, Bryce, she played over in Switzerland, and now she's coaching at Tarleton. And she was on Oklahoma State staff last year. And
so basketball's in the blood.
It's in the blood. It's in the blood. Like, and my uncle, who's married to her, Brad Caleb, like he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he was at Booker T. Washington State Championship. It was in the blood. And so I got lucky and blessed with that. But then I got extremely lucky my senior year of high school because I had all my credits and only needed one class. And my coaches there is lucky because my coaches were overworked because it's a smaller school, so they're overworked. And I'm like, hey, since you're not doing anything, how would you feel about helping with the teams? And so I got to learn how to coach my senior year of high school. I got to learn how to sit back and like watch developing offenses. And then on basketball, I was always at the morning practices with the girls and watching them. And my buddies never understood that I was such a fan of girls basketball. I was what I was raised around. I was coached by a women's basketball coach. Like that's what I was raised around. I love it. And so I'm so happy to see the advancement of it and so happy to see that it's growing. But my thing is, with the growth of it, how do you feel about the growth? Do you feel like this is something that's been over-deserved, or is it overhyped, or do you feel like they're putting way too much on two players in particular?
I don't think it's about time. I'll say that. I think it's definitely about time. I think there's been a lot of great women's basketball for a long time. My top 10 list would reflect that. And so, like, I think it's well-deserved. I've told a lot of people throughout this process, they're like, well, where do you think this came from? I said, I think it's like the field of dreams.
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come. If you show it, they will watch. Yeah. I think it was underappreciated and underappreciated and undershown for a long time. I think now we are seeing a massive rise in it, which is great. I think because of media and because of what you can create with media, advertising, drama that they'll create around it, or storylines that they create around it for players in particular, there's always something to draw on. And for me, that's probably the part that I'm like, can we just talk about how great this is as a game and appreciate it for that, you know? And I think in some ways it's bringing a lot of stuff to light in terms of how good women's basketball can really be and really is and really has been. It's intriguing to me to see the influx of fans coming in. And it's like, man, welcome. We told you so. Don't act like you got it all figured out because you followed Caitlin from college to the WNBA. We welcome you here, but don't act like you got it all figured out quite yet, because I think there's a lot to be learned about people who have already paved the path that if it weren't for them, Caitlin's not here.
Yeah.
Angel's not doing what she's doing.
Yeah.
Camila Cardoso, you know what I'm saying? Like, take your pick, put the name wherever. I'm not where I'm at if it's not for the people who have been doing this since the 70s, the 80s, from Title IX moving forward, right? Yeah. The ones who blaze the trail and put Title IX in place so that we can play, so that we can be physically capable to handle a basketball game. to get out of 3 offense, 3 defense, So it's like it goes back so far.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like the more the rise is being covered and shown, the more I'm like, ooh, okay, but let's talk about where it really started.
Oh yeah.
Because it's crazy. They literally thought we weren't physically capable for this. And they were like, let's keep it to 3 offense, 3 defense. And now it's booming. So I think it's well-deserved. I think it's wonderful. I hope to continue seeing it. And I think when you look at the age of the WNBA compared to the NBA, it'll even out when the time comes. I think the WNBA is still fairly young, but now we're starting to see it rise. And then look, before Jordan came into the NBA, we weren't hyped about the NBA. The game wasn't nearly as international. So I think it's progressing on pace, so to speak.
It's doing what it should.
Waiting for it.
Yeah, it's doing what it should. Like I told my buddies when we were talking about it, I was like, you got to understand, WNBA is still in its infancy as a professional league. I was like, it didn't start till what, 97, 98? I was like, I think that was the first year of it. With the Dogs, with Cheryl Swoop and Lisa Leslie and all those great players.
Dawn,
Oh, so many great players. And I told my buddies, I was like, man, you got to think about it. I was like, right now, everybody's talking about the Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. I was like, we're talking about that. I was like, that's just how it's going to be. That's just what it is. I was like, but if you want me to put it in NBA terms, I was like, they're Magic and Bird. I was like, they're what they are right now. I was like, because before Magic and Bird, the NBA was about to die. I was like, the NBA was about to die. They weren't being watched. They were pre-recorded games. They were showing them later. Like, it was just about to die. Yeah. Magic and Bird breathed life back into the NBA, and they saved the NBA. Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I was like, this is why LeBron can never go over Mike to me. I was like, as great of a player as LeBron is, his impact on the game is nowhere close to Mike's impact. I was like, because Magic and Bird saved the NBA. Mm-hmm. Michael made it profitable. I was like, Michael made it profitable. Michael made it international. Michael made it into this global juggernaut that it is now. Yeah. And I tell my buddies all the time, I'm like, you guys, I'm like, you're sitting there and we're talking about this. And I was like, they're going legit, like on the kind of the same paths. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, what? I was like, Caitlin and Angel are going to be in the league for about 3 to 4 years before the Michael Jordan of women's basketball comes into the WNBA. I was like, Juju Watson is the Michael Jordan of WNBA basketball. I was like, there's nothing on the court that Juju cannot do. I was like, she's a phenomenal basketball player. She does it the right way. They can promote her like they did with Mike. And I was like, when she comes into the WNBA, she is going to be the face of it and is going to take off that way. And I was like, it's going to be on her shoulders to make it profitable. And so that's going to be the test. And I was like, because there's been so many great players. I was like, but before Magic Bird and Mike, there were a lot of great players. I
think with anything, NBA, NFL, tennis, softball, volleyball, go through all of them. Men's sports, women's sports, everything has its own evolution and its own process of growth. The women were on the back burner for the longest. And I think across the board, I love what we're seeing in women's basketball, but I love how many nights a week I'm flipping on the TV and seeing volleyball, college volleyball on TV as well, ESPN. I'm like, here we go. So it's spreading across the board, which I think is really great. But I think, whether you put it in the who are the GOAT, it's like those conversations are played out to me. Stop talking about it. Every generation has its game changer. Magic and Bird, Jordan. Yeah. Iverson, Kobe, like LeBron. You know what I mean? Like it's just been, they come in waves and it's like generational chapters. And you've seen it in the women's game, the same thing. And fortunately, the ones who are in that wave right now are catching it in a time where society, media, it's catching the wave and it is
Yeah.
booming. And I
Yeah.
think it's really helping promote everything, which is really great.
And I love it. And I love it. And I've heard a lot of women basketball analysts talk about it. And one of their biggest gripes is one of my biggest gripes. And they're like, trust me, we love the viewership. We love people coming in, but we hate the new Caitlyn fans. And I just had to laugh because I was like, I get it. Like, they're coming in. I was like, I get it. I was like, they're bringing the viewership. They're coming in because of her. I was like, but the lack of women's basketball knowledge can be annoying to the women who paved the way. Like it's annoying. Like when people talked about what Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi and like Cheryl Swoops and all these other legends were saying about it, I'm like, you got to get where they're coming from. I was like, that's like a slap in the face to them to be like this. I was like, no, they worked their butts off to get this to the level.
I think they're bringing perspective to the conversation.
Yes.
And of course, the media, oh, did you hear what Cheryl said about, like, take a step back off your high horse, you know, and I'll leave some of the male commentators out of it that get to get loud about this stuff. But it's like they're bringing a perspective to it because we're looking at it with such, I say it's being looked at with such tunnel vision to a degree because of what Caitlyn has done, what Angel has done, what they started doing in the college game, and it's transitioned over. And I'm thankful it has. Yeah. But just like anything, you have to understand that it's like the iceberg theory, right? Like you're only seeing this much. You're only seeing the top. There's so much underneath the surface.
So much.
Look, come on, Caitlin Clark fans. You got to learn a lot before you start talking too much, you know. But again, I think it's fun. I think it's exciting to have so many new people getting into basketball. And that's where, for me, as somebody who's been around it and loved it for as long as I have, hey, let's talk about it. Yeah. Let's talk about it. And even if you only know Caitlin Clark, we can talk about it because at the end of the day, you're talking about women's basketball.
Oh, yeah. So, Coach, growing up playing the game, this is always a question that I love for female basketball players to answer. Because I would tell my buddies all the time, I have so much respect for the women's game. But at the same time, during high school, I didn't really watch our girls play. And they were like, one time the girls kind of cornered me and asked me about it. And they were like, hey, what's the deal? I watch you all the time. Why don't you watch us play? And I was honest with them. I was like, you guys are slow. Like, it's boring. Like, it's like, and I told him, and I was like, it's nothing against you. I was like, I understand. I was like, but even at that time in high school, I understood they had a very easy schedule. They didn't play a lot of good teams, and their head coach kind of built their schedule so that they could build a lot of wins, and that wasn't entertaining for me. And so, my question is, when you were in high school, what did you have that same feeling when you talked to the guys where they're just like, hey, I watch you guys play. Why aren't you watching us play? Because there's a lot of times, like, I felt like, especially homecoming night. Homecoming night, I always felt like schools really did women's basketball dirty because they always made the women's game first because the fans are going to come in. They're going to catch probably the second half of the girls' game, but you're going to get a crowd because they're coming to watch the boys. But at homecoming, the boys play first. So they do everything at the beginning. The boys play, and then everybody leaves. And there's like only their parents left. And it's like, come on, man, that's messed up.
I think I will say this. I was very fortunate and blessed. I went to a small high school. Yeah. I had played at recess with all the guys on the team growing up. And so when it came time for our girls' games, the guys were in the stands because we were all buddies. We were all friends. Yeah. And we supported each other. So again, I think part of that was just the close-knit, small high school that I went to. And that was kind of the environment we had. But, you know, there's a little bit of it, you know, I remember in college. But again, I don't know, because even when I remember think about my JUCO days, now crowd support, different. But from the team aspect, man, I remember our JUCO guys, we traveled together. So it was like you automatically had fans. But, boy, they would get so rowdy and so loud.
Yeah.
and they would turn up the whole game, and it was like, we appreciate you guys, and we're going to do the same thing for you, so I think I was fortunate in those cases, but it was never lost on me, and never has been lost on me, that you still, I mean, I'm a head coach now, so I stare at it.
Yeah.
16 nights a year on our home court. I still got to find a way to get home fans, home students, collegiate students, get their butts in the seats for a women's game, and not just the men's game, not just trickle in for our fourth quarter so they can catch the guys the next quarter, and I think part of that, what media and social media creates for the women's game on a big scale, we have to do on a very grassroots type scale with our team Instagram, with getting out and sitting out on campus at the cafeteria, giving shirts out, trying to really do the most just to get that support within our own campus community and community around us. But I think that's still part of the process, part of the development. And, you got to give people something they want to watch too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a great answer. Well, Coach, let's talk about the top 10. Let's talk about the greatest.
Okay.
We're going to do that. I'll go ahead and throw mine out there first so you can have all the time to talk about yours and argue or debate mine. But
I had to put mine in the list because I really thought on this. I was like, man, top 10, this is tough. And somebody's going to be left out.
Yeah, someone is definitely going to be left out. Like, I got to check my notes again.
But that's why it's your top 10 and my top 10. We all get influenced by different things or highlight different elements.
Oh, yeah. Let me see if I can find this again. Oh, my gosh. Like, sometimes I really enjoy my note feature, and then other times I'm like, oh, man, it sucks. Man. Let me see. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Yeah, no. I know my list. I don't care. Yeah, so mine isn't in a particular order. It's just my top 10. Like,
same.
They can flip anywhere. But first one that always comes to mind when I think about women's basketball is Cheryl Miller. She's the first one that comes to mind. If you were to ask me who is my GOAT, I would say Cheryl. Like, because I'm just like, I don't know what Cheryl couldn't do. Like, Cheryl was she was amazing. And it got very lucky that I actually got to meet her when she was in Oklahoma coaching at Langston. And so that was very fun to actually meet Cheryl Miller. That was cool. And so Cheryl's on my list. Another Cheryl Swoops is on my list. She's got to be on there. I have Maya Moore, because Maya Moore was like the first one when I was in like high school, college age, where I was just like, hey, yo, man, she could cook some dudes on our team right now. Like Maya Moore. She like, and I get what she did with the Innocence program and with that guy, but I still, like, a part of me resents him so much because I'm like, bro, she has so much more basketball to play, man. Like,
when they hung her jersey, I think I still got like in my feelings about it because I was like, well, what more could you have given us, Maya? Like, we're 3 for 3 so far on those. So I think Maya Moore was
so much more to give. I was just like, oh, I was like, why you take her from us like this, man? Like, I get it. I understand, but why? Like, like so good. So good. Oh, man. Next on my list would have to be Lisa Leslie. Like, Lisa Leslie was like one of the first big girls I saw where I was just like, okay, like, that's what's up. Like, I was like, she coming down the floor dunking on people. I'm like, oh, well, I never expected to see that, but all right, let's like, that's for real. Let's go. Diana Taurasi's on my list. She's filthy. I always put her on my list. Sue Bird's on my list. She's unbelievable. I've always been a huge fan of Sue Bird. So I would have to say I love Dawn as a coach. Player-wise, I think that she hit a ceiling that I was like, I thought she was going to go higher than that.
Now you
And
said
I
I had
called
to
her
give
tail
Dawn
end.
some love because I
Yeah.
think her impact on our game has been massive. But yeah, I'm with you. I think I loved her, and honestly, with the women's team in '96, what that whole group did, like
Yeah.
that women's dream team, I'd put all of them on my list. But she was a part of that. Man, there's a lot of names on that team that I didn't even put in my top 10. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think as a coach, though, I love what she's doing
Oh,
so
yeah.
much more
She's
than even as a player. So, but yeah.
so good as a coach. I gotta put this is kind of just this is my own little personal thing with Kelsey Plum. Like that's just something. Watching her in college at Washington, I was just like, this girl is cold. Like she was Caitlin before Caitlin. Like she didn't get none of the love that Caitlin got, but she was shattering records. And I'm like, hey yo, she cold. Like this is like she was crazy. Candace Parker's on my list.
Yep.
Candace was, man, she was just a breath of fresh air. She was so much fun to watch. And then Breanna Stewart's on my list. I think she still got a lot to do, and she's just getting better.
She's
and
still
then,
yeah.
And I have like Tina Charles. I love Tina Charles.
There's something about that era and the name's Tina.
Yeah.
Because I debated between Tina Charles and Tina Thompson. Tina Charles still playing, but like, there's just, it's.
Yeah. Tina Charles and Tina Thompson. Man, that's crazy. Becky Hammond has a close, but she's like Dawn to me. Like she hit her ceiling and became a great coach, and I love it. I love what she's doing for the women's game with the Aces. But another thing with her that like got me in the heart is like, why not stay in San Antonio? Because I knew Pop was going to give her the keys, and I was like, I would have loved to see her in the NBA as a coach. Like out of any organization that would have handed over the keys to a female coach in the NBA, it would have been the Spurs, and it would have been Greg Popovich. And so I would have loved to see her coaching the Spurs. That would have been great. And then I just have some that are just like honorable mention for me because like, well, Asia, I think Asia already is in the top 10. Because one thing I didn't like about this season was for all the media attention it got, they didn't talk enough about how great Asia Wilson was this year.
At all.
They did not talk enough about how
1,000 points in a season.
She shattered so many records. 1,000 points in a season. She took the single season record away from Angel Reese right after she broke it. Like it was
so much. I think
she's unguardable. Like I don't know how you guard her at all.
I mean, she's just she's dynamic. I love this time. I love that I'm in my era of basketball that I'm in to fully appreciate everything Asia Wilson is doing.
Yeah.
And that she's doing for this game, for herself, how she is as a player. I just think it's like phenomenal. I love it.
I was so mad that they did not talk about her enough. I'm like, I get it. I know what you're doing.
Well, and that's part of the like, man, can we take away the dramatic storylines and appreciate what's really going on around us in the game? That
appreciate the beauty of it. Like just watch her play. It's beautiful basketball. Like sometimes she does some stupid stuff, and I'm like, everybody does stupid stuff. Like you're gonna try some things, but she plays it so well, from her footwork to the way she moves on the box to the way she catches and hits a pump fake to the way she's still adding stuff to her game. And she's in year 7? She's adding. It's great. Some honorable mentions for me because I mean I'm just a guy, and I just. Some of these women basketball players, I just like to tune in and see them, no matter if they're on the bench or if they're playing. Like Skylar Diggins is always going to be up there for me. Like Skylar Diggins is going to be there. Kelsey's going to be there. Paige Beckett is coming into the league, and I think she's going to be phenomenal.
I'm interested to see, like there is that class coming up out of the college game that I'm interested to see how they come into the league and transition.
Yeah. Paige is, oh my God, Paige is so good. Like the injuries is like, I just hope she stays healthy. Like Paige and Juju, I just hope they stay healthy because that's going to be fun to watch. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then I got always show love to my girl Angel Goodrich. I mean, she went up to Sequoia right up the road from me. We basically grew up together. I played against her brother in college, and Nate married her sister, and so it's.
Look, Angel put it on our team in practice several times when we were in SU. I'd hit her up like, "You want to hoop today?" Yeah. And I was honored to be on a practice team alongside Angel several times, and just be like,
Angel's a baller. When people ask me about Angel, I'm like, bro, what y'all talking about? I was like, Angel still got records at KU, bro. Like, she still got their records. Like, Angel, cold with it.
One of the many names that's like so many people don't know because that's how much good women's basketball there's really been.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, put her on the list of hundreds. Like, that's a great addition to that list.
I was like, Angel's got to be on. Like, she's an honorable mention for me. And then my cousin Bryce, like her college career, like I feel like what she did at Missouri State, like, was ridiculous. I mean, she has their record for most wins. She took them to the tournament every single year. She had the upset where they went to the Elite Eight. She has their records in steals. She's won Defensive Player of the Year. She's won their Conference Player of the Year 2 times in a row. Like, they're going to build a statue of her. Like, she is one of the greatest players to ever put on their jersey. And I mean, a lot of my buddies, I would tell them all the time, I was like, she's 5'8", and I'm telling my buddies, I'm like, bro, if she would give y'all buckets easy. And they're like, well, I was like, bro, easy. Like, she physical, she big, she love playing defense. Like, she'll put it on you. So I always gotta show love for the cousin. Like, she
you should.
Her college career was one of the best. Yeah,
as you should. That's good. Well, I know we got a lot of similarities. I had Maya Moore, Cheryl Swoops, and I'll be honest, I put Cheryl Miller on my honorable mention. Jump ahead to that only because this is my only justification, and I debated all day about it too. If she would not have gotten injured in an era where they didn't know how to handle and recover and rehab the right way, what could she have really done? And I think it's incredible what she did up until that point. I think that is another great basketball tragedy that we didn't get to watch her more. But on the flip, like you said, what she then went and did as a female in the women's game, in basketball, period.
Yeah.
When it wasn't popular, when it wasn't common for a woman to be in the, I mean, she's kind of on a list. There's a list of top 10 women's basketball players for me. And then there's a list of like top 10 women's basketball influencers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And shoot, throw your Pat Summits on there. But that's one that it's like, that's the only reason she got my honorable mention.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, she was the first woman's voice I heard commentate an NBA game. That, like, she was the first one I ever heard do it. Like, doing sideline interviews with NBA players. Like, she was the first that I can remember. I'm pretty sure there was a few before her, but she was the first that I could really remember. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, that's Cheryl Miller. Like, what's she doing? Like, okay, like, that's what's up. Like, and to have arguably, to me, one of the best shooters of all time as your brother and one of the best players to ever put on the Indiana Pacers jersey as your brother, Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say you're better than him. He would say you're better than him.
That part.
Like, that's crazy. Like,
definitely. She's an icon, a big major legend in the game. I put Chelsea Gray on there. I think Chelsea is the Magic Johnson of the women's game that we have not. This could be a bold statement that I don't know we've ever had a point guard quite like that. The way she passes, sees the floor, creates. I mean, just in the last series alone, oh my gosh, some of her passes are just ridiculous. The way she sees the floor. So, as a former college point guard, I love Chelsea Gray. I love what she does, how she sees the floor, the coach on the floor mentality. She gets that for me. Candace Parker, Asia Wilson. It's hard not to put Caitlin Clark in there. Obviously, generational type player, but I think she's got a lot more to go. I put Tina Thompson in that mix. Icon that she is, Diana Taurasi, and I threw it way back.
Yeah,
I took it back to Lynette Woodard. I put her in the top 10.
Yeah.
And for any of the newcomers to the women's game, that's a name that needs to be known.
Yeah.
Her numbers were insane. Her time at, I think it was Kentucky, I think that's a name that needs to be spoken on more. They tried to speak it a little bit this year, last year. But I think that's a name that needs more recognition. Again, put her in the mix of hundreds that often kind of goes overlooked when you're thinking, she was pre-WNBA era. So we didn't even get the pleasure of seeing what she could have done on a bigger scale like that.
Yeah. And there's so many other players we can talk about. I mean, there's too many players I know. There's a lot.
Sue, Sue, you know what I mean? Like you really can. You can go back so far. Ruthie Bolton, go to that whole women's dream team of 92 and just run down the list,
And it's crazy. Like I told my buddy, I was like, bro, there's so many women that I know that were phenomenal at basketball and just didn't take that extra step. Like I know a girl that I grew up with. She was a couple years younger than me, but like in 8th grade, she's starting varsity for her high school team, and they're winning state championships, and she's getting recruited by everybody. And some stuff happened, and she just decided not to go do it. And I tell my buddies, I was like, bro, it's so different, man. I was like, it's so different for them. And I was like, I don't think y'all understand. I was like, because they have to deal with things that we just don't have to deal with. I was like, we get somebody pregnant, whoop-de-doo. Like, we're going to play. Like, we're going to play the next day. They get pregnant, like, I was like, they can play for about 5 months, and then they got to take off. And then they got to take off.
And look, put any player who has had babies and pop back into the WNBA or pop back into their season, just throw them on a list because that's unbelievable.
I don't know how they do it. Like when Skylar did it, I didn't know how she did it. I was like, how you come back this quick? Like I was like, how did you come back this quick? Not how did you do it, but how did you come back this quick? Like what? Like and then when Candace did it, I was like, what? Like, come on. Like
you see it, and it's just like the power of women, man. Like that is where it's like, oh, underrated, underappreciated, but that's big time. Those things are big time for any player that can achieve that on top of all they're doing.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So before we head out, I got a question for you before we close the episode, because we are both coaches. We both have been around this game for a long time. Women's basketball coaches. Like, I have a very short list. I don't know how long your list is. My list is very short of great women's basketball coaches. It only includes like 3, maybe 4. Yeah. Like, how do you feel about it? Like, do you have a longer list? Is it something I'm missing? Or is it just because for one thing that I get, but I also just don't like is sometimes I don't like, it's like I told my buddy, I was like, it's like going to an HBCU, historically black college, and then having a white coach. It's like that. I was like, it kind of defeats the purpose. I was like, it kind of defeats the purpose. I was like, but it's like that. I was like, having a women's game, but then having a male coach. Yeah. And it's like, that's different because I was like, a male coach can't do what a woman's coach can. You can't go in the locker room with those girls. Like you can't, like you can't do that. And I struggled with it when I first started coaching, like because I was giving girls teams, and I was like, how do I coach these teams? And that's where I had to reach out to my aunt and be like, how do I coach them? And she's like, coach, you would coach the boys. And I'm like, but I can't talk to them like I could talk to the boys. I was like, I can say things to the boys that are there. She's like, I was like, they have more feelings and emotions than the boys, especially at that age. I'm like, I was like, the boys I can be a hard ass with, and they're going to take it and either run with it or quit. And I can care less. But if I'm a hard ass with a girl, like I could crush her whole feelings and she's out for, I was like, and I'm just like, I don't know how to do it. So I have a big respect for female coaches because I'm like, I just don't know how you do it sometimes. So my question is, one, what is your list for female coaches? And then how do you do it dealing with, like I said, just the different aspects that come with coaching female players? My list is Dawn, Pat Summitt, Becky Hammon, and Gino. That's all I got. Like
Gino, great. I'm going to put him out because he's a male in the women's game, but you can't deny what he's done. But for me, it's Pat, top of the line, always has been. When I was a kid, if there was anything that had Pat Summitt's name on it, I was like, just like I was with Michael Jordan, you know. So Pat, Dawn, Becky Hammon, those are my top three, hands down. But I think for me also, like Sue Semrau, big name in the women's game. Sue Enquist, actually on the softball side, not in basketball, but a lot of stuff I've read and listened to for her. C. Vivian Stringer.
Okay.
You know, I think, man, there's so many women influencing women athletes, women coaches, women's game. I'm a big fan of Corey Close at UCLA. You know, I think what she does out there, I like seeing her program, how they operate from a holistic perspective. Now, that's me as a coach that looks at more than just X's and O's. I'm like, oh, what do they do in their culture? What are they building? How are they building it? What are they talking about? I tend to go, you know, layers deep. But off the top, Pat, Dawn, Becky. Easy.
What about Kim Mulkey?
Kim, man, I love Kim's fire. I love Kim's fire. I love Kim's energy. You know, it's hard to deny what she's done at LSU and Baylor before that. I like Kim Mulkey a lot. You know, I think there's some things she did. I'm like, okay, not my flavor, but she's great. She's great. What she's done in the women's game is great. Man, I didn't even get to think about this one entirely today. You know, you hit me with this curveball now, but there's so many. There's so many. It's like, oh gosh, who am I going to hang up on this call with and be like, dang, why didn't I mention that coach, you know? So
I got to say this just in case my cousin watches this and then rats me out. Darlene Caleb is a great coach as well.
Great coach.
The Hall of Fame. I was like, I want my cousin to see this and then rat me out. Be like, Mom, he didn't even say you. I'll be like, whoa.
Yeah. Like, you know who else? You know who else? And of course, now I'm drawing a blank on her name. And I just talked with her this summer because I got to give small college basketball some love. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds here.
Yeah. No, I'm more scared of my aunt than anybody in the family. Like when I found out my dad was more scared of her than anything, I was like, if he's scared of her, nah.
Yeah. Julie Folks. Julie Folks.
Julie Folks?
Folks. Yes.
Folks. Okay.
She was at a Division III in the Northwest for a long time, for about 10 years, I think. Put them on the national powerhouse list. Took over at Transylvania University, another Division III in Kentucky. My first job was Division III, and they were in our conference. And she had just taken over. She was there 10 years, and I'm not exactly sure how many national championships she's won, but she just took over as the head coach at Marshall University. And I just, again, it's from a holistic perspective. But what she's done, anybody who builds programs, you know, I think that's what I love about like Pat, she didn't have to just build a program. She had to change a culture. She had to
Yeah.
change a entire perspective. Title IX, thank you, Pat, for what
Yeah.
you did to get us Title IX, you know.
Yeah.
Dawn, same thing. South Carolina basketball? Nobody's
Yeah.
paying attention to them.
Yeah.
Gino, go back and watch some episodes. I forget what the show is on ESPN. They have a segment, but he talks about Stores, Connecticut, what it was when he got there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a dairy town in the middle of the country, and what they started in and what they're in now. Anybody who builds stuff like that, I just think
Yeah.
it's so impressive. You know, Becky Hammond, I just love her style. You know,
Oh,
but she really got given the WNBA dream team, so I'm glad she's done great with it.
yeah.
And I just love
Yeah.
her style, like I said. But big respect for anybody who builds. So I got to put Jolie Folks on that list and show some love to the small college coaches of America that a lot of people don't know about.
That's great. That's great, man. And that's a great way to end the episode. Just showing some love to these small town, small school coaches that people don't really get a love of. Like, a lot of people don't understand there's a lot of levels to this game and there's a lot of opportunities. One of the biggest things I would always tell my students is anybody that plays for me, I'm like, if you get any letter, it doesn't matter, NAIA, JUCO, Division III, Division II, like, go. If you want to do this, go play. Like, don't set a bar like it has to be D1 or nothing, because that's
I
not
think,
what it is.
yeah, I think, you know, and I think that's the thing that I hope we get back to
Mm.
after we get through this era of hype and transfer portal and money and NIL deals and all this stuff.
Yeah,
I hope that in a way, once the separations happen where they're going to happen, because I think it's coming, I
yeah,
hope we get back to a point where we're picking schools, we're going to seek opportunities out of passion and love for the game, and for
yeah.
coaches who are going to impact and influence and make it a really enjoyable experience.
Oh
I
yeah,
think, you know, your question to the who are my top coaches or how do you do it? And for me, I, I'm a people person. I'm a relational person. And like I said, I've had it in my spirit since I was a kid to want to impact and influence.
yeah,
And I love my players hard and I coach my players hard. And I think you have to have a real balance to it.
yeah,
You got to know who they are as individuals first and how they want to be coached. And I think when you get that depth to it, it gives you the leverage to coach them and be about basketball.
yeah,
Because my team, even though their teenage college brain tells them, oh man, coach is mad, they know they can walk into my office 10 minutes after I just held their feet to the fire and held them accountable. They can walk into my office and be like, but coach, did you want to go get a smoothie, a tropical smoothie? All right,
yeah,
yeah, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So it's such
yeah,
a holistic thing. Not everybody operates like that. You know, that's
yeah,
me and my style. That's how it's so far working for me. I'm young in my head coaching career. That's what I've always felt like could be the X factor to having a successful program.
yeah,
And as I've taken notes and filled out a journal of to dos and not to dos as a coach, I've kept it since I was a player in college. And I do my best every day and every season to implement all those things I recognized as a player, all those things I recognized as an assistant, and try to implement them. But at the end of the day, first and foremost, I want to love my players well for who they are as people and embrace the fact that we get the platform of enjoying the game of basketball together and have a common mission to succeed and be successful in it and go after goals together.
That's great, Coach. That's great. That's a great way to end the episode too. Thank you guys for tuning in to Conversing Over Drinks with your host, Cedric Turner. And thank you once again to my special host, Coach Heidi Messer. It's been a great episode. I hope you guys tune in. We're going to have everything available for you on YouTube and stream anywhere you get your podcast from. Be looking out for the clips. They're coming as well. Thank you once again for being on the show. Peace. We out.
Thank you for having me. See ya.